have made it to Auto Club Speedway. You can start seeing some RX-7s here. I don't know where my car is at. It's so weird hearing so many rotary noises. You know you've made it to Sevenstock when you're burning alive. So that's why I actually got a hat right now. I need to find where the car's at, and then we need to figure out where we're putting it. It's gotta be somewhere up here. That's Riamemia himself looking at my car. Switch that entire rail to primary and the entire second rail to secondary. Does that make sense? That seems totally. Yeah.
You gotta get something really close.
Close, and then something.
Because it'll cough.
Yeah.
Fuel comes out of suspension. It all falls onto your intake manifold.
Yeah.
Velocity picks back up and it sucks in all that fuel.
They're thinking they're drag racers. They're thinking it's wide open and that's it. They're on the two-step and boom, they're gone. Yeah. Man, just get a good mold guy, you know.
Okay.
Good,
There you go.
Yeah, we can blow it on Mimi. The insane progress on the car behind me has been made possible by Raycon. These little earbuds have been wonderful for listening to music while I'm working out, as well as listening to all the rotary noises over and over again on my phone that I've recorded of this car running. Not only is the audio quality great, but the battery life is phenomenal. While the case will recharge the earphones when they're put back into it, they also have 6 hours of battery life without it. That's way longer than I've ever worked out in one sitting. Please go to buyraycon.com/RobDahm to get amazing Black Friday deals. Raycon's earbuds start at less than half of any of the other premium wireless earbud brands. Click on the link in the description below to get access to Raycon's Black Friday and Cyber Monday deals. And I can definitely tell you that 4 rotor noises sound heavenly in these earbuds. A huge thank you to Raycon for supporting this project and making this sort of accelerated insanity possible. I don't have any tools, but if anybody has them, I'll tighten that up and tighten it up again.
And one more time.
Or sometimes even working in the show.
RX-7 or RX-8? Yep. I would love to rev, I would love to do all that, but this is untuned, unbroken in engine. So you guys get, that's like the 4th or 5th start in the history of the car. This is one of my favorite things that Mazda supports, is the race cars. Fire it up, test it up, and then they take them on the track and beat the hell out of them like they would back then. Time to go back to the shop, park her for a little bit, take some hours off, get my voice back, and then start breaking this engine in. One view I know, it's this view right here. Has everybody picked a place to eat? I don't think we
This guy's like the best tow truck driver ever. Well, it didn't take long before we were twiddling our thumbs, and even though I was editing videos for the last 2 days, we're back at it. We can't help it. We sit there and we're both just like, lost and alone without each other.
I didn't want to put that on camera, but
Yeah, it's the truth. We're going to answer a lot of the questions that people had, a lot of concerns people had. I think number one is the control arms. And so we're going to talk about 3 major issues that affect that. 2 of them are what people don't see. Unless you watch the 46-minute video, you see that we did actually clearance them. This is kind of that between video while we get the car ready to idle fully and start doing some shakedown. So I've learned in the past with the videos, don't go backwards. We need to keep moving forward. Actually, that was TJ saying. But in my videos, it's the same thing. So the next couple of videos are going to be idling, parking lot driving, all of that sort of stuff properly. Let's answer everybody's burning concern question. Does the suspension hit the intake piping? The quick answer is no. The quicker answer is yes. You can see pushing on the car, you can see it's articulating a little bit. It doesn't hit. The car is also squatted. The problem we had is that even if you watch the video of the car unveiling that it drives, we had the guy standing right there. He was mean mugging the whole time. He was a nice guy. Yeah, he was vibing, but he was vibing with $1 per hour. So he was not vibing in the same way we vibe. What happened was when we dropped the car down, we realized that these springs were meant for just a chassis, not for the whole car. And what you'll see is that they're almost at the limit of the threading. I purchased 8-inch springs that really need to be 10-inch, not more firm. Yeah. See, I'm used to 8-inch. I need to get longer springs because it's not so much the spring rate. They're 400 pounds per inch. That they're still softer than what we're expecting, but you adjust the coil over to get the correct ride height. And you can see I'm missing a considerable amount of spring length. When we dropped it down, they're soft, they're shorter than they're supposed to be, so the whole car sagged. It's gonna be kind of hard to see. You can see it more with the axles. The whole car is squatting down the middle. That means it's halfway through a shock, which puts these closer to hitting. The longer answer is yes, this one hits. And Isaiah will, yep. And there we go. That's what everybody's wondering. And yes, that one does. That is perfectly okay with me. Somebody else worded it this way. That's a very nice titanium bump stop. Ingenuity, guys. There's a lot that's going to change on that side. That, as you saw, the 46-minute epic video, that was the last piece we were able to do. The whole clutch situation just shifted everything backwards.
in my defense, I made it in 10 minutes.
He taped it together in 10 minutes and then brought it welded to SEMA. That's pretty damn good.
Can I tell them the math on how many inches
Yes,
of weld?
yes. Go for it.
So I did the math on this, and it is 340 inches of weld on this one pipe.
And how quick did you do that in?
I did that in about 14 hours.
Titanium. The reason that everybody looked at this one, though, oddly enough, and thought this one was going to hit, and that's because this one moves. And Isaiah, I'm going to let you rotate it.
Yeah, this one is actually supposed to be rotated up a bit, as long as that doesn't break over there.
Yeah.
I'm not going to fuck it up, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. That one rotated, especially with the weight of the blow-off valves. That whole thing kind of rotated, and it actually got it closer over to here at the show. There's this bar across the car, and that brings us to another issue.
Oh, yeah. Another thing is that this also hits this. I didn't make this with this on, actually.
It touches, I mean, once we get it down on this side.
This pipe could be seen on Rob's OnlyFans for sale.
Yeah, that one's got to go. Can you do me a favor, grab the...
Whatever you want me to.
Yep. If you want to jack up the car, I'm going to show people how much this chassis flexes. Yeah, you can see it spreading open.
I can do this better.
And one more. There. See, that now as you set it back down, that's like a rib cage. It's spread itself open more, and that is meant to be in the car.
And that's another problem with the chassis that we haven't talked about. It's a drag car.
Yes, the people that designed the original part of this did an excellent job if this was a drag-only car. And they got outside of their comfort zone to do it.
Oh my God, look, I didn't even notice. Look at how far the arms
Yeah. Yeah, so look at that difference. Oh, you still have to drop it down a little bit more.
No, yeah.
It's still, the car's still up.
Sure
Yeah, a little. That bar makes a big difference, is basically the point. Even look at this, even this side came up considerably. But, I mean, there's still very tight tolerance, but the point is that there were a couple issues at play as to why they look like they're going to hit. What's the first couple of things we're going to do to the exhaust manifold?
So the exhaust manifold needs to get redone. I don't know if anybody really noticed, but this one not be able to come out because this is stuck into here. The last minute thing, but we need to put a V-band right here so that this piece separates from this part of the header and the header is able to come out. Need to mount the turbo so that way this stays in place before I even take this off. And once I get the header out, we're going to put EGTs and O2 sensors for...
EGT and O2?
Yeah, for EGT and O2 sensors. For data, there you go.
Yeah, there we go. EGT, O2, and back pressure.
Yes.
I mean, I'm working on the coolant system, but once Isaiah has the...
Oh yeah, show him.
Yeah, this is pretty damn exciting. I was recommended this by Carlos Lopez. This is the BMW water pump. It's PWM controlled, which is called pulse width management. So you basically ramp it up and down by tapping it with electrical signal on the data line, 0 to 100%. So we can ramp up and down control that way. This will flow, I think, like 50% more. It's capable of being pressurized, where the Davies Craigies, whatever that is only meant to do like 1 to 2 psi. So the other one can handle back pressure up to whatever, 1 bar, 15 psi. And this is 1.25 inch diameter, so it's not restrictive. It's meant to be 20 AN. Yeah, German engineering. Isaiah wants me to lie and tell you this is the one that we pulled off of his car, but it's one like his car. That's his excuse to everybody at the streetcar takeover last night. It's not even American. We're going European. We're just using the best of all worlds.
That is BMW.
Yeah, this is a Euro car now.
Sick.
Euro rotary. That's a bad combination.
Some of the other major flaws with the build at this moment are, one, that's a very small fan for moving that much heat out of that system. We'll see what's required, but that is definitely inadequate. Also, there was a baby shim on the steering rack. You can see it all the way down there, just so it clear between the upper and lower control arm. For some reason, that got out of whack. Another thing a lot of people pointed out was that, the car must not be able to run because it doesn't have a belt. Well, as you saw earlier in the video, it very much does run. My brother, for some reason, kept taking it off at SEMA. I actually don't know why he did it. I'll have to ask him. What's SEMA without something Bluetooth? I had Bluetooth blow-off valves. Those aren't even tapped into that line, as well as my secondary fuel rail, which is requiring an additional 8 injectors I don't have the money for yet. Most people didn't notice this. This is probably the most atrocious thing about the current operation of the car. That Heim joint is a temporary solution for how rough this steering setup is. From first glance, okay, yeah, that's kind of an angle, but it's a compound angle. So what happens is it comes from the steering rack there and it goes in this line. That's cool, okay, then it continues down here. The problem is the steering rack actually leans over at an 18-degree angle. So you can, say we spin it like this, it's still at 18 degrees. It is not pointing at any point in line with the column all the way up there. So it's on an angle here. So not only do you have angle coming down, you have angle going to the side, and that's why it binds up. If you watch any videos in the near future while I'm testing the engine, you'll see the steering is lumpy, it jerks. If you watch that 46-minute video, you'll see this was done as a joke, but it was oddly enough a red herring. People thought that was a problem or that was some sort of unfinished business. I just thought it was hilarious using an O2 sensor to plug the front diff. Doing that caused the front diff to leak and dump oil every day onto the ground. There was not a single drop of oil underneath the engine, oil system, turbo, any of that, but there was under the front diff, which actually made me uncomfortable because normally when a rotary is running, it's leaking oil. That means it's in good shape. I also didn't have, until recently, the feedback line for the alternator. As I was running it, it was just running off a battery and it wasn't charging itself. Now, one really sharp-eyed person pointed out the single shear issue with the control arms and using Heim joints in a bending situation. The funny part about that to me is that's actually how the Unicorn's set up, and I'm sure they've improved on their process, but that was borrowed from somebody else's professional setup. I agree. We'll definitely address that as we go forward. Some of you may have noticed there is no hood or fenders or front bumper or doors. I purposely did that. That was part of my plan, and I'm happy. But what I thought for sure people would roast me on is I couldn't get one on each seat of the 5-point harnesses from G-Force. I couldn't get one of the sides properly mounted. A really sharp-eyed person would notice that even though we had it all-wheel drive up on the jack stands, in the current configuration, it has no way of being all-wheel drive at SEMA. What happened was there's a pneumatic pump called the Tesla system that comes with basically an ECU as well. That's not plugged in. We were using pneumatic air, not hydraulic fluid, to pressurize it up in the air. If you see it on the ground moving, that's only rear-wheel drive. Also, very few people pointed out the fact that the only braking system I have is the ones going to the rear wheels, and it's off the hydro brake. What I'm gonna have to do is put a second caliper on the rear discs, so that way you can control the hydro brake separately from the main braking system. That I could tap that into the master cylinder on the rears, but Let's keep them separate. One person did catch that there is only one 60mm wastegate from Tile on here, and that is inadequate for controlling boost on this size of an engine with that horsepower. That's why we have two. We just weren't able to finish that in time. Infamously, you'll see in the next video, there's no catch can, and that becomes a very, very big problem right here. A really, really sharp-eyed person would notice that I don't have the crankcase ventilation done properly on this car. There is no master cylinder for the brakes, front or rears. Those have not been mounted in yet. That's just for the clutch, which, by the way, is working and works really well. Additionally, we didn't have time to mount the hardware for the front headlights, which will be the stock pop-up lights, thankfully, as well as the fenders that go from here all the way over into there. Didn't have time to make fender mounts, so that bar sat on the sidelines. A couple people criticized the fact that the intake piping went underneath the cantilever, not just that it would hit, but that it went underneath it. And I get where they're trying to go. It's actually pretty simple to go from here up and over, or from here over, and that would be wonderful, but headlights and so on need to go in this area. Maybe things will continue to improve as we go. I would say that people saw this car, didn't realize how much progress was going to be done to it, and were very excited and supportive. The only thing that focused their attention was this insanely close tolerance right there, which I think was awesome because that gave everybody something to talk about when really everything else was so positive. There's so much that you could point out about this car, but I think the internet as a whole just supports the idea of trying something crazy. This isn't a Mark V Supra build with wide bodies. This isn't a SEMA Brodozer. This is a genuine attempt at something unique, and I think the world actually supported it.